Hello everyone, I am Merritt Laney Johnson, and this week we read about Lee Strasberg and the Actors Studio. This week I was reminded about the polarized view of Lee Strasberg in the acting community and his method acting approach to things. I myself had a negative experience when I was initially taught the method because I was candidly doing it wrong and unhealthily. And so I understood why Stella Adler and Sanford Meisner were opposed to a lot of Strasberg's methods. But what I really enjoyed here in the book that we read was the question of whether or not scapegoating Strasberg was the answer, whether or not we could blame all of America's acting ills on Strasberg and his method. And I really enjoyed that they also brought up the contributions that he did make to both the group theater and to the Actors Studio. Method acting utilizes a lot more of a concentration on emotion, with starting with you, the actor, first. His whole argument was that starting with yourself first is always the best place to start, and then from there you work introspectively in order to create a character, and then and only then do you put yourself in the character's position. What would I do if I was in that position, using the magic what if? And he believed that the emotion should never be real, like in the moment, yes, but not real, but merely remembered emotions, in a term that he called affective memory. So in other words, what would you do if you were put in that position? The problem with this, though, is if you dive too deeply into this, that you can uncover some really deep and dark stuff, and you have to do it in a healthy way, which is what Stella Adler ran into when she approached Stanislavski. The reason that he didn't want them to be real, because if they were that potent in the moment, for instance, if somebody's playing a character who underwent something very tragic and the other actor actually did experience that tragic event, that could help them, but they have to do it very, very carefully. The problem is that he didn't want actors to be too hectic or uncontrolled while doing scenes across from their scene partner, because their scene partner does still have to trust them. And if they're legitimately angry, it can be kind of a toss-up as to whether or not they're healthy to work around in that moment. This form of method acting, to embody this character within yourself, is useful to connect deeply with characters, and in fact parts of it I still use in my acting today. But if it's taken too far, you can get sort of what Stella Adler came across and what I came across as well, where you can feel like you're in a state of emotional and physical distress. When Stella Adler first came up to Stanislavski to talk about this whole technique, Stanislavski thought that she was emotionally unstable because of how she was reacting. She was so raw to everything and so he helped to guide her in a more healthy way to do it. And of course there is some speculation as to whether or not Stanislavski meant that just specifically to help Stella Adler, and used more of the magic what if and kind of distanced it a little bit from using too much emotion at the time for her sake, or if that was part of how his method was evolving. But the important thing to remember with Strasberg in relation to comparing it with Stanislavski's system is that it really matches up with the early incarnations of the system, and therefore cannot really be ignored, brushed aside, or scapegoated, really. That Lee Strasberg contributed a lot to both at the Actors Theater and the group theater. And even though there are ways to do his method wrong that can hurt a person, it's just a matter more of understanding it and doing it safely. With regards to the Actors Studio, this tells you how much Strasberg's been kind of demonized for his method acting, is because now they're kind of really separating themselves from teaching method, mostly because of a lot of troubles that other actors have encountered with it. So for this reason, I don't teach method, especially since my students are very, very young and just trying to understand their own emotions, let alone another character's emotions. So we stick more with the Stanislavski, the magic what if, and we get a little bit into Meisner, but that's more for whenever they're in high school. But I do appreciate Strasberg's contribution to acting in the States and taking Stanislavski's vision, turning it a little bit and twisting it a little bit to be more unique to the American experience, the American emotional experience at the time. I do highly respect him for that. I kind of wish that the Actors Studio didn't distance themselves so much from Strasberg, but embraced the positive aspects of what he contributed, while also acknowledging, hey, there is a right and a wrong way to do this. Anyway, thank you guys very, very much for listening, and I hope you have a tremendous week.